Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me. This is going to be a new series I'm starting um, entitled Radium. And we're just going to, you know, go through all the things I've been clipping for years on Radium. And while we go through them, just kind of give you my opinions. And yeah, it should be pretty fun. There's going to be quite a lot to this series. So that's why I wanted to make it a series because probably got over 100 hours of material here. So just wanted to get everyone's feelings on it. And yeah, go from there. So, kind of a rough draft. But yeah, part one, secrets of aerial flight. This is one I wanted to include in my Anomalous America California episode, but decided not to because I knew there was going to be a series that would come from it. At least that was my plan. Finding time to do these things can be rather difficult, but here I am. So, episode one. I thought this was a perfect article, and since we're still kind of close to the material, and I'm going to be recording Anomalous America, Arizona, or sorry, Colorado here, and radium's been found in Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and so I wanted to try to get this series started here, and I'm going to be covering it the most in Colorado. And so I think it's a perfect time to get this series going. So, yeah, we'll jump into the article here. And thank you again for watching along. And make sure to check the description. And you can get links to all these articles and um, follow me along. And check out my archive on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll go from there. But yeah, so here we go. We're going to jump right into this. The article I chose for episode one. And really, it's just the timing. I felt like it was perfect, and because of where I'm at in the series of Anomalous America, I figure we could start here. This is a newspaper from San Francisco, 1897. Um, it's one of the first publications where you ever even see the word radium published, which is quite incredible. And you'll see why as we get into this. And we'll go, we'll talk more further down the series. We'll cover more aeronautics, um, kind of steampunky, and we'll just cover the gamut: scientific experiments, the elixir of life, um, mining secrets, um, keys to World War One and World War Two, the German syndicate's control of all radium mines, so on and so forth. But yeah, we're going to start here, and here we are. Like I said, San Francisco newspaper, 1897. The secret of aerial flight revealed. Not 1,000 miles from the Golden Gate may be found residing a man of quiet, unobtrusive presence, living in a snug cottage overlooking the ocean, surrounded by perhaps 3 or 4 acres of vineyard. The product of the vines is not, however, his chief means of support. The gentleman is well fixed, as the term is, in matters of finance, and the vineyard is simply a means whereby he is enabled to pursue his peculiar studies uninterrupted by the curious, who might otherwise intrude upon his labors, were it is supposed that he was not what he appears to be in that locality, a grape grower. The cottage is a small dwelling of perhaps half a dozen rooms, and besides it is a long one-story structure, at the end of which is a tall lattice fence thickly covered with vines, which effectively hide the interior of the enclosure. The gentleman is about 50 years old. That is, he looks to be about that age, and is evidently of foreign extraction, having dark skin, thoughtful dark eyes, and the general characteristics of the Hindu race. I am not at liberty to state just how I came to learn of his peculiar work, but will describe as clearly as I can what it is, and leave to the thinking portion of the call's readers whatever inference they may draw. Necessarily much of what I here write must be in the words of the gentleman himself. As I entered the garden-like enclosure beside the cottage, my attention was arrested by what I took to be a pleasure boat. It was about 12 feet long, 5 feet wide, forming a very convenient carriage for half a dozen persons. On each side of the body of the boat was a wing-like blade, hinged, and over the boat, supported by 6 slender rods, was a broad sheet of metal, larger than the breadth and the length of the boat, and probably a quarter of an inch in thickness, which glittered and glistened with all the hues and tints of the rainbow. But the strangest part of the affair was that the boat was not resting upon the ground, but was attached to it by a couple of stout cords. As I stood looking at the thing with astonishment depicted on my face, the gentleman approached the boat, which swayed, 3 feet from the ground. Placing his hand upon a metal knob just inside the boat's edge, I saw it sink to the earth and again rise to the limit of the ropes. Not a word of explanation was offered me concerning the queer affair, but I was requested to step inside, and I followed him into the shed beside the cottage. The shed proved to be a workshop. In one corner was a small gasoline engine and a dynamo. Along one side of the long room extended a workbench and shelves. An abundance of tools were present. At the further end of the room was a large furnace, now cold, and on the shelves were a number of elaborate electrical instruments. I saw on the workbench a piece of the same material as that of which the boat cover was made, and I took it in my hand. It was very light and was evidently of some kind of metal. My host smiled as I examined the material, asked me what I thought of it. I asked, "What is it?" "Radium," he replied. "It is a metal. I am not aware that it is so obtainable except in Tibet, on the southern slope of the Himalayas, near Tyatharapuri, and here on the western slope of the Coast Range. It occurs in the soil as a telluride, and the metal is procured by thoroughly washing the soil, rejecting all portions that are not dissolved in the water, then evaporating the solution. The solid portion remaining, in the form of an impalpable powder, is then subjected to a peculiar process of electrification, resulting in the production of what you have in your hand. It is exceedingly strong, its tensile strength surpassing that of steel. Its iridescence is due to the microscopic wrinkles upon its surface. But that is not all of its characteristics. It possesses the remarkable qualities of being easily rendered apergent. What? I explained. Apergent, he replied. Apogee is a force obtained by blending positive and negative electricity with euthetic, the third element or state of electric energy. And a body charged with this fluid, apogee, is not only unaffected by gravitation, it is repelled from the earth with the same or greater force than that with which it formerly was attracted, so that if the body is liberated, it will move away into space. Radium isn't yet the only material I know of that will retain the apergic force. You surely must, as a chemist, know, said my host, that neither synthetic nor analytical chemistry will satisfactorily account for certain phenomena constantly occurring. The world will never learn true science until it is ready to learn from nature's open books. Everything in the material universe is constructed upon a system of triads. In other words, There are always three phases or conditions of the same thing. Water may be a solid, a liquid, or a gas, and in each manifestation be only water. Just so in everything, electricity is known to the many as only positive and negative, while in fact its third condition is never absent, although unrecognized. An apple falls to the ground from the tree, and science announces that a subtle force called gravity brought the apple down. But as to the second or third phase, science knows nothing, and in fact is apparently too conceited to desire to learn. I have learned something about the opposite force, the second phase of gravity. I call it apogee. The boat that you saw swaying in the yard has its roof stored with apogee, sufficient to cause it to lift the boat with me in it and soar to any height that I may wish to reach. But I asked, how can you control your ascent and descent? Simply enough, he answered, the inner sides of the boat are lined with a number of thin bands of specially prepared metals, forming, in fact, a very powerful storage battery of the dry type, as no liquid is required. Perhaps you might better understand it by comparing it to a Leyden jar, only its discharge is slow, not all at once. There are two complete systems of these bands, each insulated from the other. When I use the boat, I first charge one set of bands with positive electricity from yonder dynamo, and then charge the other set with the negative electricity from the same source. I then join the like poles of the two systems, and of course, thus connected, get no current that would be measurable by an ordinary galvanometer. One system is neutralizing the other. But now, using the two systems of bands connected as a single circuit, I charge them with a further current of what you may call static electricity, and create a force which, applied to certain material capable of storing it, as does radium, produces apogee in that material. I can weaken or destroy the apogee in the radium by a reversal of the direction of the applied current. Thus, I am able to increase or diminish the buoyancy of the boat. Did you ever think what was that marvelous power that maintains the planets in their position as regards to the sun? Gravity alone will not fill the requirements. That force alone would simply precipitate them upon the sun. But apogee acting with gravity holds them as they are. The apergic force of the sun repels, and his gravity attracts. In the meantime, as the sun is swiftly moving himself through space, his family of satellites is moving with him, and the apergic force, harmoniously blended with the gravic force, gravic, encircles them around the central power, for the reason that the two forces are never always exactly of the same intensity. They regularly alternate. One is always a little more powerful than the other. Nothing in nature is absolutely uniform. She abhors many things besides a vacuum. There is no such thing as a perfect circle in nature. All right, there's the article. Incredible.